Hi. Well, today we're going to be talking about the use of language in public speaking. You know, all the time people deliver information in a way that is not memorable, it's not interesting. And by the same token, we will sometimes hear information that is incredibly memorable. It is incredibly interesting. What's the difference? Well, it's all about language. If we use the right language, our audience will be better engaged, they will understand the information more, and they'll remember it better. So let's get started talking a little bit about language. Now, I'm going to begin by talking about the use of imagery in speaking. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about concrete language, simile, and metaphor, and I'm going to give a few examples. Now, Ronald Reagan, in his address commemorating the 40th anniversary of D-Day, used an example of very good concrete language in order to paint a picture for the audience of the event. He said, "We stand in a lonely, wind-swept point on the northern shore of France. The air is soft, but 40 years ago, at this moment, the air was dense with smoke and the cries of men, and the air was filled with the crack of rifle fire and the roar of the cannon." You see how that use of concrete language painted a picture for everyone that day of the importance of that particular event. Now, another use of imagery in language is the use of something called simile. Now, a simile is an explicit comparison between two things, introduced with words like or as. You always use like or as when you're doing a simile. Here's an example. The truth was like a bad taste on his tongue. See how you're comparing truth and taste? The truth was like a bad taste on his tongue. It painted a picture of what the truth was. You could say, her boyfriend appreciated her like an ape appreciates an algebra book. You see how you're comparing the boyfriend to an ape? My father, one of his favorite sayings is to say, "That's handy as pockets on a shirt," talking about something being very convenient. Amos once said, "But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream." So judgment is water, righteousness a mighty stream. Okay. Now, metaphor is a lot like simile because you're comparing two things, but the comparison is implicit. You don't use words like or as. Here's an example. Papa was a rolling stone. Now that is it's not true that Papa was actually a stone. We're comparing Papa to a stone. Papa was a rolling stone. The assignment was a breeze. The assignment wasn't the wind, but we're talking about it being easy because we think of breezes as being something easy. The assignment was a breeze. Or, she drowned in a sea of grief. Or maybe, she cut him to the quick with that statement. She didn't actually cut him. It was a metaphorical cut. It wasn't a literal cut. So that's what a metaphor does. It compares two things, but does it implicitly. Now, let's talk about another type of device you use in speaking in language. You can use rhythm. Rhythm is a very, very powerful way to make speaking, to make it memorable, to make a speech memorable. So let's begin talking about parallelism. Let me give you an example of parallelism. Parallelism is where you arrange a series of words, phrases, or sentences in a similar way. People can hear the rhythm in the sentence. Here's an example. The phone was ringing, the dishes were washing, and the dinner was burning. You see how all the phrases are in parallel? The phone was ringing, the dishes were washing, and the dinner was burning. So you can see how you can get kind of a rhythm going. Elizabeth Cady Stanton said, "Rich and poor, intelligent and ignorant, wise and foolish, virtuous and vicious, man and woman, it is the same. Each soul must depend wholly on itself." You see how all the parts are in parallel? Now, repetition is where you reiterate certain words or sets of words for emphasis. Macbeth says, "Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in its petty pace from day to day." You see how the repetition of the word tomorrow brought emphasis and rhythm. Here's an example. I am woman. I am mother. I am fierce. You're repeating, I am, I am, I am. It's repetition and it's parallel. Alliteration is where you repeat certain consonant sounds in close or adjoining words. Here's an example. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. That's from Joni Mitchell. She purposely used the letter P over and over again. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. How about curiosity killed the cat? That's alliteration. Or the Beatles saying, "Whisper words of wisdom, let it be, let it be." Antithesis is another rhythm-making device. Antithesis is where you juxtapose contrasting ideas, usually in some sort of parallel structure. Here's an example. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. You see how you're comparing hell and heaven? Neil Armstrong said, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Someone could describe you as being easy on the eyes, but hard on the heart. All of these are examples of antithesis. Now the thing is, you can use more than one of these rhythmic parts together. For example, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny compared to what lies within us." Emerson is using repetition and antithesis in that statement. All of these give a rhythm, give a music, and give memory to what we're saying. So it's important that when we are speaking, that we try to use language that will emphasize what we're talking about and make what we're talking about more memorable. It's important, so pay attention to it. Thanks.